Sorcery! Stop them!
Hello listeners, welcome back to another bonus episode, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Adam, who you might know as the Geek's Handbag on social media, and you might also know him from his podcast, the Big Blue Box podcast. Hello Adam.
Hello. You might know me as the leathery old handbag at the minute, I'll tell you where things are going. I feel more like that these days than the Geek's Handbag, but yeah.
Oh, where's that come from, the Geek's Handbag?
Do you know, I don't really know where the idea sprang from. I was sat about 10, 15 years ago trying to think of an idea for a YouTube channel. I wanted to do something to do with merchandise because that's what I'm really into. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to think of a concept. I was trying to be really clever and stuff, and I couldn't think of anything. And then I thought, how about if I have a handbag that's covered in badges, so it looks a bit like Ace's jacket. And of course, it's bigger on the inside than the outside, obviously.
Yeah.
So that way, I can pull like stuff out of it every week to like talk about and review. It's like an endless bag of goodies. And that was the sort of initial idea. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll go with that. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And
there we
here
go.
I am.
You're joining me today to talk about the latest colorization of the classic series that's been done, which was the War Games. And I particularly asked you because I know that you are a big fan of the original. It's because you're a big fan of the original story. Is that right?
I really do like this story. I do consider it a classic. And obviously, we'll talk about our thoughts on the version that we've just got in colour, which I rewatched today, actually, because I'd only watched it once when it was first went out on BBC4. Mm-hmm. And I had quite strong feelings about it, if I'm honest, being a bit of a fan of the original. And I thought it's only fair to give it another watch and try and view it not as that hardcore classic Doctor Who fan that's just like, oh, they've cut that and they've changed this. And I thought, let's just sit down and watch it and enjoy it for like what it is. And I think that was quite beneficial. I think my view on it has softened a little. I actually really enjoyed it today.
Yeah. I think it's hard with these things when you know the original so well, and it can come across when they do these new versions that it's like they're presenting this is now the new version going forward and the old one's gone, but you have to remember that the old one's never going away. It's always going to be there. This is just like an alternative, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right. And I think the reason I enjoyed it, I actually really enjoyed watching it this afternoon, more than I thought, really. It's because I did kind of get that out of my system of like, the first time you're watching it, you're looking to see what they've cut, how they've condensed it, what they've changed, and it's sort of all a bit of a shock. Whereas today I was able to just put that to one side and just watch it for what it was. And I really enjoyed it, actually. I got to the end of it, and I mean, I've got some gripes. Don't trust me. I've got some stuff to get off my chest, but overall I thought it was very enjoyable. Actually, I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
that's good. So I'm not hugely familiar with the original. Actually, I have watched it, I think once, quite a while ago, and so coming to it for the colorization and the edit was quite fresh. And yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I thought pacing wise, it seemed to zip along quite well. And the actual colorization, the look of it looked fantastic. Much better than the Daleks from last year.
I mean, I don't know what the difference in like the source material was, like how, or whether they just had more time on this. I don't know, but it did definitely looked better, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed to me just like the choices of certain shades and things, because in the Daleks, it seemed very like, some of it was a bit like bubblegum and like over the top, like oversaturated. I don't know if that was a deliberate choice, and then this time that they went for a more slightly subtle version.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think they, from what I understand, stuck quite close to some of the behind-the-scenes colour photos that we've got from it, so that might help. Whereas in the Daleks, I don't know how much, there was a lot of fuss, wasn't there, about Barbara's blouse being that sort of salmon pink.
Yeah, I think it's, what you just said reminds me that I think they did use behind-the-scenes pictures for that as well. And it might be a case that, because obviously it was filmed in black and white, never intended to be shown in colour, they use certain colours of things which show up well on black and white film. And they weren't intending the actual colour to be seen. So, like the TARDIS was sort of blue, like blue floor and everything, which apparently looks whiter than actual white. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
How long ago is it since you last watched like the original 10-part story? Is it quite some time ago?
Oh, I would say 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, even though I've watched it quite a few times over the years, I'm actually struggling to think when I last watched it, in all honesty. It probably is a couple of years ago, even though it's a story I really like, because when you're looking along your DVD shelf for like, I feel like a Doctor Who tonight, what shall I put on? As much as I love the War Games, a 10-part story is not my reach. It's not my go-to. It's a little bit too
much. It's a commitment, yeah.
It is, yeah. So it's probably been a while since I last watched it in full, probably a couple of years ago, which is why when I was watching it today, I was trying to remember, like, if any of the music in it is the original music, because one of the things I want to get onto is the music as well. I've got some thoughts on that, and I'm trying to work out, because I know you do music as well, so I was thinking we could have a good chat about this. But I'm trying to work out if any of the music in it was the original music or if it was enhanced music with Marquez adding bits in. I couldn't quite remember, so if I'd have had more time, I would have watched a bit of the original just to see, but I didn't.
Yeah, I did like the music. I thought it really helped sort of set the tone and stuff, which, again, like I'm not that familiar with the original, but I'm guessing there was a lot more music put in. Makes it feel a bit more modern.
Yeah, I liked the music in it, and I think I must have been Marquez, right? Did the music for this.
Yeah.
So I think Mark did a good job, and it certainly fitted in with the story. But one thing that drove me nuts is the amount of music in it. Like, it was just too much. Like, someone would come into a room and there'd be dun 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 dun, and you'd like, it's like, you don't need to underscore every single scene. You can have moments where it's just the actors doing their job, and some of it I felt drowned out the performance. And this is why I was like really keen to talk to you about this, because you know about music and things. Music is supposed to enhance the feeling of the scene. It's not supposed to be like a sledgehammer in your face telling you exactly how you should feel. So if you're just letting the music drown out the actor's performance, which some of the scenes in this were, you are losing a lot of atmosphere. And I as much as I liked the music in it, there was way too much. And it's almost this fear of silence. It's like, it's a bit like someone when they're worried about if a conversation goes a bit dead, that sort of fear of an awkward silence. Like, you can let this scene just play, you can let this scene just do its job without having like music over everything. So that even today rewatching it bugged me a lot, because it's too much. There's literally music throughout the entire thing, and it got a bit much, I thought. But I liked what they were doing. Just wish they had turned it down a bit, and and also just made it a bit more subtle, really. Yeah,
no, I know what you mean. I guess they're trying to make it appeal to the fans of the modern show, aren't they? And they, that's obviously when they brought this show back in 2005, that was something they wanted, was like wall to wall sound, they said. Like, but then even that, like, with Murray Gold's scores, there are moments where he will step back and then they become all the more powerful when you just have silence, like you say.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely it. It's being made for a new audience, which again is why I'm trying to sort of take a step back and view it as in that way. But I just thought, it's a little bit over the top. How much was being thrown in there at times.
It's Doctor Who for the TikTok generation, isn't it?
It is, and I hate that because, I don't know how much of this is true about, kids' attention spans and stuff. I'm sure there is an element of that, but let's give them a bit more credit. Like, I mean, I personally hate TikTok. I cannot stand being next to someone who's just flicking through and all they can watch is like 3 seconds of each video before they have to flick to the next. I can't bear it, especially when I'm on trains. I get quite grumpy. I'll like sit there and just ram the headphones in. But yeah, I think that is the thing. Like, modern Doctor Who is very much guilty of that as well. It's like there's music over everything. But I think that's just the way modern television is made. They feel like they've got to score the emotion of the scene rather than letting the actors, portray that emotion. That's not enough. You've got to have music as well to tell you this is a sad scene. And I think, well, yeah, but it doesn't need to be like so, obvious. There's performance as well. So it's just the way modern television is made. So I get it.
Yeah, another aspect of the sort of trying to make it more like modern television, which I quite liked, but again, as not that familiar with the original, you might have not liked it, but that they did this sort of cinematic sort of intercutting, where what I'm guessing would have been long, discrete scenes in the original, they sort of they did a bit of this scene, a bit of that scene, a bit of this scene, a bit of that scene to go back and forth, sort of get the pace up a bit, which I quite liked. What did you think?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't mind that actually. I thought it would annoy me because I think in the Daleks, I think some of it worked and some of it really didn't. Like, you know,
yeah, some of it came across like a montage of just like, well, let's crack on a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in this, I thought actually it worked quite well because what the people were saying in the scenes did relate to the flashback scenes they were showing or whatever. So I didn't mind it actually. I agree with you. I think it did tighten up the pace and it was a good way of getting in scenes, you know, from the episodes that needed to be there without having to cut them too severely. You know, you could sort of have the scenes combined to make one scene rather than sort of three really long, drawn out, you know, monologues. So yeah, it worked quite well, I think.
Yeah. One thing I do know that was missing from the original was the iconic first appearance of the sonic screwdriver.
Yes, yeah.
It's a shame they cut that.
I'm surprised they cut that. And again, that's one of the things that the first time I was watching it is like one of those moments. I'm like, oh, you are kidding me. You know, you start getting on your high horses, stomping around. Oh, I'm switching this off now. You know, but no, it is a shame because it is, you know, it's an iconic thing. It's an iconic moment. I guess, you know, these choices have to be made. I mean, it's funny the things that get cut. I mean, somebody's got to make that decision. Otherwise, you know, you've got to condense 10 episodes into 90 minutes. That in itself is like an impossible ask.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
But it's a shame.
If you're really brutal about it, like it's not that important to the story, is it? It might be, you know, iconic as a moment for the whole show and for fandom, but for telling that story, it's not that vital.
No, well, that's the thing, isn't it? And presumably that's why they cut it. It just reminds me of other little things that, you know, get cut when they make special editions, like, you know, the no complications sign from, is it Death of the Daleks? I always get confused, the Pertwee one in the White Mansion.
I'm not familiar with that.
What's that? Okay. Well, it's probably more for the, like, hardcore classic. It's just a really silly line that this Ogron just says, no complications. And it's so bad that it's like, you know, once you see it, you just love it. And that got cut out of the special edition and caused uproar. What was the other one they cut? I think they cut the Cyberman in Five Doctors going, ah, and he sees the Doctor, which again, you know, was seen as sacrilege. So it's always going to upset someone when you cut these things, but they got to be done.
Yeah. I think sometimes when you're watching it, the worst bits are the bits you look forward to.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah.
oh, there's this really awful line delivery coming up.
Yeah, you're like, wait for it. This bit's great. Wait, watch.
Yeah.
What? It's gone. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the scene where Patrick Troughton was like, he bursts in and he was pretending to be like a minister or an inspector. And he was just trying to sort of bowl them over with bluster.
I think Pat's on absolutely top form on this story. I mean, well, he's always on top form, actually. Pat is a great Doctor, but he really is superb in this. And he, in scenes like that, when he's given the material, he grabs it and he absolutely shines, doesn't he?
It's actors like that, like back in this era of Doctor Who, that where they come from the theatre, I think you can really see it.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I think the thing with old Doctor Who as well, and I don't know why they don't do this anymore, is that with old Doctor Who, they used to rehearse together, didn't they? Used to get together in an old, you know, school hall or something, and you'd get this sort of, you know, they'd build up a relationship and rapport with each other. And I think that really comes across when you're watching old Doctor Who. Whereas now, when they make television, it is just a case of they turn up. I mean, I don't know, but this is what you hear from actors, isn't it? They turn up, shoot, record, and they haven't really got to know each other, or, you know, and I think that's why there's a warmth to sort of classic Who. You can almost feel that the actors have spent some time together to work through things, you know, in their performance. Yeah,
it's a very different animal now.
Yeah.
I remember there being like these sort of use of CGI and like particularly like establishing shots. I'm thinking the dome, which was a bit, that struck me as weird because it was like obviously not up to par with modern Doctor Who CGI visuals, but also it was not appropriate for the 60s Who either. So it was sort of somewhere in the middle. And it was just a bit strange. Did they use like model shots for that in the original, or did they just not have those shots? I
don't remember there being any model shot of the actual War Games base. I could be wrong, but I just don't recall seeing it from the outside. But I've got to agree with you there. I especially on a first watch, when that first shot of the base come up, I was a bit like, oh no. That's like, there's nothing wrong with the design of it. It just was jarring because the picture's too clean and it looks too, I don't know if is it CGI model? I don't know what it is, but it just did not fit with the rest of the picture. But again, it didn't bother me so much today rewatching it whether it's because I knew it was coming, I don't know. But yeah, the first watch, I found a few of the new shots a little bit jarring because they don't quite fit in with the style of television back then. But I don't know, I wasn't so offended by it today because that's one of the things. If we'd have been recording this after a first watch, I'd have been, that blimmin' base shot that they kept showing. But no, I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's grown on me a little bit.
I guess I just don't know what they're trying to make it look like because it doesn't look modern, but it doesn't look of the time that it was made either. So it's I don't know. It's just some weird. It's
some anomaly in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this begs the question of how far they should go with changing them or adding stuff, isn't it? It's a thin line to tread because I think the colorization, like we both agreed, is gorgeous, but then it's almost like George Lucas, where he can't stop himself tinkering. Like, well, just leave it. Like, it's perfect now, but they have to sort of keep changing stuff. And some of it works, and I think some of it was lovely, but I don't know. It's where do you stop? I mean, there is one thing I really didn't like, but I'll save it.
Yeah, I wonder if I can guess what that is.
Go on. I
think we can come on to it now if you like. Does it involve the war chief?
Oh, no, actually.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
I've done a bit of a 360 on that, and I'll probably change my mind on it again tomorrow. Now I can't decide on this blimmin' war chief thing because really didn't like that the first watch. I was like shaking. As soon as I heard that master theme, I was like, no, don't need to do that. Like, I always liked the theory, but I like it to be ambiguous. And just putting the master theme over it and all that, it aggravated me, I'll be honest with you. I was like, no, not having that at all. But I watched it today and I was listening to the actual dialogue between the Doctor and the War Chief and the stuff he was saying. And I was like, I don't know. I can sort of see that it works. And also, again, putting my sort of grumpy old classic Who Wurzel head to one side and just watching it as a new version of the story, I don't mind it now, but I'll probably change next time you see me. I'll probably have changed my mind on that. I hate it again, but did you not like it? Did you think it was a bad move?
I was surprised, but then I thought about it and I thought I can understand why they made this decision, because apart from anything else, it's like it's going to get people talking and it's going to get people up in arms, so they're probably going to do something like that to generate discussion. But so there's been this fan theory for decades, I'm guessing, that it's the same character, that it's the Master. But
yeah, I think that there has been this theory has been floating around for a while, and I think the thing is, I think why I was slightly annoyed with it on the first watch is there is enough in there for you to, if you want to believe it's the Master, there was enough there already in terms of dialogue. To then put the Master's theme over it again, it's a little bit too on the nose, I think. It's telling you. It's like, it's the Master. Yeah. Whereas we were like, well, it could be, it might not be.
They did use it a lot as well. Like, basically every time he was on screen. And there's like the creepy sort of chromatic strings, like the which worked quite well. Yeah. But then there were moments when it was just going da 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 da, and I was like, it doesn't fit at all.
No, it doesn't. And also, I think the biggest problem I have with it, and it's probably a little bit of a stupid, niggle to have, but it's why I don't like it really, is because I just think it's nice to have another Time Lord character, the War Chief. Like, if you then make him the Master, it's kind of like getting rid of this other character, and I don't know, that to me seems a little sad. I like the fact we've got this other weird renegade Time Lords, maybe there's another adventure with him somewhere. So I think that's the other thing I wasn't sure about it being the Master.
Personally, I'm okay with it being the Master, because it does seem like a lot of similarities, like even down to the beard.
Yeah,
and as it's a very attractive beard. Let's be fair, it is cool. As a new viewer who's familiar with the Master, watching it, that moment of recognition when Patrick Troughton sees him and like this terror, and he just says "run" to whoever. That coupled with that music and the sort of connection with the Master, it did give me a little thrill. So
yes, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think that's, again, coming back to enjoying it more on the second watch. So the first time round, I'm thinking, oh, just because he's, wearing a black blazer and he's got a moustache does not mean he has to be the master. I was a bit like that. But watching it again today and actually paying attention to the dialogue and the Doctor's reaction to him and stuff, I was buying more into, all right, yes, it does make sense in a way. He's very, very masterish. I get it. It's not just the look. So I bought into it a lot more.
It's not canonizing this and saying that he definitely is the master. This is just a fun little presentation of an alternative edition.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all fun and games.
Exactly. Like you said, it's not erasing anything, really. It's there if you want to see it, which is, I think, how it should be. I mean, they did the little regeneration sound effect when he was shot down the stairs. You could just hear that.
Yeah.
So it's all in there if you want to see it, but if you don't want to, you can sort of turn a blind eye to it, I guess.
Yeah. So I just made a note about the side rats.
Side rats?
Yeah. Isn't that what they're calling these? So they're basically TARDISes, aren't they? But it's TARDIS backwards. Is side rat.
Side rat. Okay, I don't know. I had not made that connection, but yeah, a side rat. It just conjures up a Cybermat in my head. I can't think when you said. Oh rat. Well, actually, weirdly, the first thing I thought of was the giant rat from Talons of Weng Chiang. Bizarre.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what's that got to do with it? Yeah. So the TARDIS. I'm just going to say TARDIS is. I don't know what the actual word for more than one TARDIS is, but I'm just saying TARDIS.
Yeah. I say TARDIS, But no, that's what I was going to ask, but it sounds like you're not too sure either. But there were these machines that they were using, which were basically TARDISes, but they seem to be referring to them as side rats. And I wondered if that was a different thing or if it was just they were calling them that for some reason. I'm
horrified that I have not picked up on that line, considering how many times I've seen this bloody story over the years. Yeah. I've never even picked up on that. But no, I've just always assumed they were the TARDIS because...
it works the same, basically, doesn't it?
It does, and I assume that's what they look like when they're not in some sort of, when the chameleon circuit is turning into something. Yeah, I've just assumed that they're the TARDIS, a version of a TARDIS, and I don't know if the War Chief has knocked one up, gone and got a few bits from B&Q and knocked them up or what, but yeah, I see them as TARDIS.
Yeah.
What are they called again? I better make a note of that so that I'm a fake fan at the next Doctor Who quiz I go to. What was it? Rat something?
So it's the letters of TARDIS, but backwards.
Backwards.
It looks like Sid Rat, but they pronounced it side rat. So
okay, got it.
Very weird. The other thing I was going to mention was the weird, the controls that were basically like just fridge magnets that you slide around.
Oh yeah.
I find that hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you could buy them back in the day in like your local supermarket. Those little magnets, but yeah, they are a bit poor, aren't they? There's a bit where he touches the machine as well, and the side panel almost falls off. He's like holding it back on with his fingers, isn't it? Which is, this is what we love about classic Doctor Who. We love moments like that. But yeah, they are a bit poor, and actually, that reminds me of one of the scenes where the over dramatic music blared in was when he was suddenly moving them around, wasn't it? It's like, right, we need to change course, da, 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 and it's going mad, and all he was doing was moving these magnets around. It's like, yeah. I'm going to get some of those magnets. I like a magnet. I like a magnet. I want a side rat magnet is what I want.
Yeah. all I can picture is just a rat on its side.
Yeah. Dead.
So we obviously also need to talk about the ending and the regeneration.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Oh, I hate to be so on the fence about this, but I really don't know how I feel about it.
Okay.
In one way, I feel like it's charming, but I don't know that it worked. I don't know. Again, this is one of the reasons I gave this a second watch today, because I couldn't decide. I do love the idea, and I remember when the YouTuber made his version of this, which is what they've used as a template, and I remember thinking that was wonderful and such a nice little thing as a fan-made project. I don't know that again, I think it's because it feels so jarring towards the rest of the episode. It comes back to what we're saying about the CGI base or whatever it is looking too clean. And when we saw the Doctor sat in the chair in the TARDIS, it just instantly sort of took me out a little bit. It just thought it didn't quite look right. But I like the bit with Pertwee, though. I like the Pertwee stuff. I thought that was done quite well. You know, when he sort of sits up in the chair and they'd use those scenes from whatever. That I thought was quite good. So
Yeah, that was
yeah.
good.
Sorry to be a bit sort of on the fence about this, but I genuinely don't know how I feel about it. In some ways I like it, but in other ways it wasn't as good as I'd hoped it'd be.
Right. But how did you feel about the way they use the modern sort of golden energy and all that?
Yeah, I don't particularly have a problem with that. I know why people have a problem with it because I think it's just a little bit overdone. But I personally, I didn't mind that at all. I thought it kind of fitted in with the scene.
Yeah.
What did you think of it? I mean, like in terms of when you were watching this and he starts spiraling down, and we all know what's coming. You know, in the original, it just fades to black. So, but we know we're getting this new regeneration. And so you see him fall in and pull in all the funny faces. And then you get the shot of the TARDIS, which is quite nice, that model shot.
Yeah.
And then the next shot is like the Doctor slumped in a chair. Now, to me, that's the shot that didn't quite work. I think the rest of it, actually looks pretty good. But it's the shot of him slumped in the chair that just sort of was a bit jarring for me. But what did you think of it? Like, what were your thoughts going through your head when you saw it?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same as you, to be honest. Like, it's extremely well done, but it does suddenly come out of nowhere and feel a bit jarring that it's not the same. It just feels like they've tacked it on.
To be honest, it was more, and I hate, like, someone's put a lot of time and effort into this, so I don't like to be critical of anyone's work. But I just, sometimes when people talk about animations that we get for Doctor Who and they say, if you haven't got the money to do it properly, maybe it's best not to do it at all. I felt like it was close to being really good, but not quite good enough in terms of the way it looked. And again, that might sound a bit harsh. It to be honest, it really was just the scene of him in the chair, and actually something about that just didn't look right to me. But the rest of it, like the console going up and down, looked gorgeous. I think the Pertwee stuff looked great. So maybe I'm being a bit pedantic.
Yeah, maybe for you, if they'd just cut that shot, it would have improved it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I did think that because I thought if you just cut to the TARDIS rotor going up and down, and then you see the Doctor's face with the regeneration energy, which looked pretty good, I actually think it would work better. So maybe it is just that one scene.
Yeah.
I'm probably being a bit harsh, to be honest. It probably was just that.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I think the rest of it looked pretty good.
Yeah, it was done really well.
Do you think it needed it, though? That's the thing. That's the other thing I was going through my head as, in brackets, Grand Prix Classic Doctor Who fan. I was like, well, it didn't need a regeneration scene in the original, so why do we need it in this? But I again, looking at it as an alternative version and not a replacement, it's an alternative version to enjoy. I think it's nice to have it. But do you think it needed it?
Well, I wouldn't say it needed it, but on the other hand, like as a completist, does it not, has it not always bugged you a little bit somewhere in the back of your mind that we've never seen that face go from Patrick Troughton to John Pertwee? And we have with all the others, pretty much.
I'll be honest, it hasn't actually. It honestly hasn't. And now I'm thinking it should have.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, why were you not annoyed? No, I think maybe it's just because that's, I've never known any different, if you know what I mean. That's just how it was.
Yeah.
And I've always liked this sort of void that, there's lots of fanfares about all the adventures that went on in between those two, which in a way doesn't really make sense because when the Doctor falls out of the TARDIS, which looks like it's in worse condition than the Doctor himself in Spearhead, that prop is like ready to drop. When he falls out, the Doctor's clearly just regenerated. So I guess it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's nice to have it as an alternative. It's never bugged me that we didn't see the regeneration, but it's nice to have one, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I think once they decided they were going to do this story, the temptation was just, they had to do it really. I don't think they would ever have not done it.
No, it does kind of make sense. And I think in a way, the more I think about it, I do think it's quite nice to have it.
Also, just before the regeneration, when he's shown the possible faces that he might get, and they put in promo shots of future Doctors.
Yeah, BBC publicity pictures.
Yeah.
Now, how did you feel about that?
Well, again, that it's very silly. If this was part of canon, I would find it a bit annoying because I personally like the idea that each time the Doctor regenerates, it's kind of a response psychologically to where they are in their life and what they need to be next. So it's not like those regenerations are all set in stone. And that kind of suggests that they were sort of always going to be his face one day. But you know, it's just a bit of silliness, isn't it? It's just a bit of fun.
Well, I'm going to be grumpy. I hated
Okay.
it. You remember
You hated it.
earlier that I said there was one bit that I really hated. To be
Yeah.
honest, watching this again today, I really enjoyed even the bits that I was a bit unsure about. I can put to one side and just enjoy it as an alternative version. But the one bit I can't stand is when the new series Doctors pop up on the screen.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get the decision for doing that. I don't think it makes any sense. It's one of those silly things. It annoys me way more than it should, to be honest with you. I just really, even when I knew it was coming up today, I was like, oh, I know what's coming up. Don't like this
Yes.
bit. I'm not, I'm already getting annoyed about it and it's not even on screen yet. What's going on? So it just seems, I mean, even if it had been classic Doctors, I wouldn't have liked it. In the original, when you got those silly pictures come up, there's a charm to them that are of that time, and I just would have much preferred it. I just don't understand the need. I don't get where this to me is the George Lucas thing I'm talking about, where they were having fun. They'd made some cool little changes. They're adding in the due regeneration and they couldn't just leave it. They're like, hang on, one more thing. I know what we can do. Let's put the new Doctors in. It's like one sort of step too far of changing it. And it's an unnecessary change that brings absolutely nothing to it, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't add anything to it. Even as a special edition, alternative version, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why it annoys me so much though. Like, why does it annoy me so much? But it does.
I know what you mean. I think I just have to view it as, like I said, a bit of fun, a bit of silliness. But yeah,
I need to chill out more.
Yeah,
just need to get over it. Yeah,
it's also interesting the way they've edited it so that how Patrick Troughton is responding to each one. And that he ends up with Matt Smith saying, "Oh no, that won't do at all." When actually,
he should have been the too young one. Would have been much more.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if they'd originally had it. He's too young, and then Jodie Whittaker and him say, "Oh no, that won't do at all." But then they were worried that could come across as misogynistic if he says that about a woman. But
I feel the same thing. Yeah,
strange to have it with Matt Smith, because like Matt Smith is very sort of inspired by Patrick Troughton. Like, they're very cut off the same cloth.
Yeah,
so
true.
Yeah,
I've been listening to, obviously I've been listening to your podcast since episode 1. Been with you right from the start, and
wow.
I know. I've been, obviously you're on to series 5 now. Is Ben liking Matt anymore? Because I don't feel like he's really clicking with, and Matt is one of my favourite Doctors. I love him.
Yeah,
and I've been wanting Ben to really like him, but I think he's struggling with it. I know he's come round to liking Amy a bit, hasn't he? But not. Yeah, he
is struggling with Matt. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping by the end of the series he'll feel a little bit better, or certainly A Christmas Carol is a good one for Matt. I'm hoping he'll get something out of that. But I think he's just suffering from Tennant withdrawal.
He just wants Donna back, doesn't he? He
wants Donna, and it is quite a jarring change. Like, when we had like a year or 18 months to prepare for a new era, and we only watched series 4 not that long ago, and now we're on to series 5. It's quite a dramatic change.
It is. And actually, it's one of the things I was thinking earlier when I listened to the very first couple of episodes that you guys put out, and thinking, I don't think Ben's getting into this show. I don't know how long this podcast is going to last. As much as I'm enjoying it, I wouldn't be surprised if it just ends at episode 5 and it's just you saying, it's me cutting in here. We've had to end it because he won't watch anymore. And I thought, I hope that doesn't happen. And yet here we are, and you're already on series 5. So,
well, I'm still waiting for that day.
Quite an achievement.
I still think one day it will happen. I will have to make that announcement. Fingers crossed for now.
Do you think I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I worry how much he's going to deal with the Capaldi era, because that can be, I don't know, not hard going, but it's a very different Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah. It's one, again, like at the time when Capaldi was on, I was a bit unsure at the time, and then having revisited it since, I've come to realise how good the era is and how good he is. So it's always, I think that's the thing, when the show changes, you always kind of mourn a little bit what's gone, and it's hard to get used to the new one, and then once you've had time to settle on it, you can appreciate it more. But yeah, there's no way you would have got him to watch. Did he? I assume he didn't watch the War Games. No,
with you,
definitely not.
And there's no way you'd get him to watch 10 parts, is there? I mean, can you imagine trying to say, look, we've got a 10-part story here, bear with it. It's really good. Oh, yeah. No.
I think the absolutely not would be heard several streets away if I suggested that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So overall then, do you feel quite positive about this colorization edit?
Oh,
Or-
I do actually. I do. I went from I probably won't order that. You know, it's coming out on Blu-ray and stuff. I always judge something if I have enjoyed it by if I want to buy it. If I need to own it on physical media. I mean, there was a time I would just buy everything Doctor Who. I you know, being a collector, even if it's a you know, Christmas special like Widow in the Wardrobe that I don't like, I would still have to buy the DVD. So it's in, you know, I can't have that gap. But I'm afraid over the years, as the credit card bill has gone through the roof, I've just had to rein it in a bit, you know? And so nowadays I'm a little bit more selective. And but I decided after watching it today that it would be one I would get. I thought, actually, I do want to own this. I think it's quite a nice little presentation. And as we've said, the colorization itself is gorgeous. They've done a great job on it.
Yeah.
I hope they do more. I just hope they can rein themselves in a bit from tinkering too much. I get why they do it. I absolutely understand they are making this for a new audience, and I try not to let myself get too caught up in it, in the changes, like to just go with it a bit more. And I think that's the thing I'd say to anyone that's like me, that gets a little bit hung up on the changes, is to just take a step back like I did today and just watch it for what it is, and try and enjoy it. Yeah. So I did. Overall, I did think it was really nice.
Good.
Yeah.
And are there any stories that you think would benefit from this treatment, or, you know, would be suitable candidates for this treatment?
Well, I would love to. I would love to see Tomb of the Cybermen. Colorized. I thought that would be the obvious choice if they were going to do another one. I thought Tomb of the Cybermen, because it's a great 4-parter and it would look fantastic in color. Can you imagine like the cyber leader with his big old orange dome head going mad? It'd be fantastic in color. Is it orange? I'm colorblind. Yellow, whatever it is.
I don't know. Yeah. But no, that is a good story, and I think it would do really well. And also, you know, they did the Daleks, and so the Cybermen are kind of the next obvious thing as well.
I would love to see the first episode in color as well. I know that was rumored before the Daleks was announced. There was a lot of rumors going around. We were going to get a color version of Unearthly Child for the 60th, and I could absolutely see that happening. Obviously, with all this stuff kicking off with Unearthly Child, that kind of went out the window. That would have been lovely. I mean, I know the rest of the episodes are a drag, but I think the first episode and the pilot, oh my god, I love the pilot. I think I actually like the pilot slightly more than the transmitted version, actually. Yeah, just because the TARDIS looks so clean in the junkyard, and the Doctor's a little bit more eccentric and mad. And I would love to see the first episode colorized. That would be right up there. What about yourself? What ones would you like? I mean, I appreciate, like, I'm probably more classic series than new series. I love both, and I see them as one show as well. I'm not one of these people that sort of says, no, classic, new, and then series one, we shoot it. You know, I'm not. To me, it's all one unit, all one show.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm probably I'm more passionate, I guess, about the classic series.
Yeah.
I just get more from it for whatever reason. Probably my age. I that nostalgia thing, like you said, of looking back on a show, and I get a real sort of warm buzz from the classic era. Even the rubbish stories. But what about yourself? Is there anyone that you'd love to see colorized?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because you mentioned Tomb of the Cybermen. That's definitely up there. Maybe the Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Yes, that would be really good, actually.
That would look cool with all the London shots and everything. That could look really cool. And also, that's quite a long one, isn't it? I think. Is it
6 or 7? Is it? Yeah. It's quite.
So could do with being condensed a bit, maybe. So yeah, that could be interesting.
My friend wants to see them do the Web Planet, which I do get why he says that, because it is very, they went to town on the costumes. It would be very interesting to see that story in colour, and maybe they could cut it down to make it more watchable. I don't know. But the thing that's always drove me crazy about that story is the Vaseline on the lens. It just, I don't know what they were thinking. To me, whenever I'm watching it, I'm sort of adjusting my glasses, thinking it's my eyes, and then I'm like, oh no, it's the picture, isn't it? But yeah, I can get that. That would look visually interesting.
I'm not super familiar with that one. I think it's one that I tried to watch and couldn't get through.
It's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the ambition. because it's as I said, they've really gone to town. You got these blimmin' flying Monotra bugs, and it's they're going for it. But the story itself is wow, and the sound effects they're ringing in your head for about a week afterwards and don't leave.
Wow.
Yeah, they're irritating. They're really bad. But yeah, that's one. If you really do want to finish Ben off, I think that would be the one to do it. I can't imagine him getting through that. I think hardcore Doctor Who fans struggle to get through it.
Yeah. Well, I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah, all right. Keep on a back burner.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, it's lovely to come on and be a part of this podcast.
Would you like to just remind listeners where they can find you?
So I'm a regular host on the Doctor Who Big Blue Box podcast with my friend Gary. We haven't had an episode out for a while because I've been having a bit of a break, but we always review like the new series. We're going to be reviewing Joys of the World. So we're finally getting that review out. And then anyone who's on YouTube, I got a YouTube channel, which is the Geek's Handbag, where I basically review Doctor Who products, and I do a few location visits. I love going to see where they film Doctor Who. That's one of my favourite things to do, actually. Do you ever do that? Do you ever go out to any locations? Or?
Not regularly, but, on the occasion that I've been to Cardiff, for example, like Ben and I made a stop there a couple of months ago, and I was very excited to show him all the sort of Torchwood locations and stuff. He was more interested in the donut stand that was outside the Millennium Centre. But
well, don't blame him. I like it.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's surprising how many locations there are and where they are. I mean, I drive my husband absolutely up the wall because whenever we book a holiday, the first thing I do is check to see if Doctor Who filmed there. I'm not even joking, and it's amazing how many times it's turned out that they have, and you can just see the blood drain from his face. It's like, oh no. Like when we went to Seville, I was like, we're going to Seville. Yeah, I want to go to Seville. It's like, you seem very excited. I'm like, yeah, because they filmed the two Doctors there. And it's
yeah.
But the best one, I can't remember where we were. It was somewhere in Spain, I think. We'd gone on like one of these coach tours where they take you around all the, cathedrals and God knows what. We're wandering around in our little group, and we sort of went into this sort of really nice little square, this little quaint square with a cathedral on that in it and some trees and some steps. And I suddenly thought, I know this place. I've seen this place. Where have I seen this place? I'm like, Missy was sat there. This is from, and I couldn't remember the episode, but it's where Missy is like captured Clara and an aeroplane stops mid-air and there's a big shadow over.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, this is it. So I like run off to take photos, and my other half was going mad. He's like, the group have left. The coach is waiting for you. And I'm like, there's no way I wasn't getting a picture of this. Oh, disaster, I'll tell you. But yeah, they're my favourites. Love a location, me.
Amazing. Well, thanks again for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great. Thanks for having me on. And I shall continue to listen to you and Ben. I genuinely, I mean this, I'm not just saying it. I genuinely love listening to you guys. You're very natural. It's like listening to, it's like being a fly on the wall, eavesdropping on a conversation. It's not, there's no sort of, it's not scripted. It's not phony. I just think it's harder to do than it sounds. Yeah, because a lot of people, and myself included, you almost go into like, presenter mode without even realizing a lot of the time when you start doing a podcast or a YouTube channel. And you two, it's just like, I can imagine that's exactly what you're like at home.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and the fact you managed to capture that, I think, is wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a joy to listen to, honestly.
Well, thank you. And, of course, you know how we like to end our episodes. So I'm going to say to listeners, stay cool, stay safe.
Stay fantastic. Oh, amazing. I wasn't as good as Ben. I couldn't reach the note. He always goes really high.